Welcome back to Hidden Gems. My name is Arden Thomas. I'm the Syncom Smalltalk Product Manager. Hidden Gems is where we show you capabilities of the product that may not be obvious, but we want you to know about. We think you should know about. We think you will benefit from. Today's Hidden Gem is on fonts for applications. So we're going to show you some tips and examples for application fonts. And there's a lot here, a lot of different things you can do, and we hope you get some great benefit from this. So we're going to first talk about widget fonts. Widget fonts are the fonts you use in your widgets, just like it sounds. Let's go to an example here. I have a window spec. I'll edit it, and I have a number of input fields. If you go to the details, by the way, these are our name system, large, you can see the ID setting, fixed, etc. So we can refer what font it uses in the details right here. The font, this is a pull down, so we have the default right here essentially, the system. I'm going to cancel that. Right here we have large, standard fix, standard small. This hasn't been set yet. Subtitle, title, and my large. Those are going to be three fonts that we create the definition for and use it right here. But I wanted you to see this, for example, in large. Notice what it's done to the size of my input field. It is managed the height because it knows the font needs more room. Now let's contrast that by another technique I'll show you. Here's a window spec, and we've done a similar thing. All of these, however, this is input field 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and input field 8 even. And notice all these look uniform, and that's because none of the fonts have been changed. What I'm going to show you is a technique to programmatically change what font that widget is using. Here is essentially how you do that. I've defined a post build with method. It gets the builder as an argument. It's typically held in the interface opening group here. First thing you always want to do, proper procedure, is to do a super post build with. That way, if you're multiple ways down or there's something defined in the super class, you'll get it. All we need to do now is say widget at input field 1, text style, large, fixed, small, and these ones we created, subtitle, title, and my large. So this is how you can set the text font, the text style, programmatically versus through the properties. So that shows you both ways. So let's see what the fonts look like. If you go to name font selector and send it the message open, you'll get this right here. So we can see the default, fixed, large, and we can actually see what family it is set to and what size it is set to. So here's Sego 14, Sego 19, Sego 16 for the system default here, fixed, Courier 16. So we can see what those are set to. And we can also see when we add some fonts, we can see exactly what they get set to. So let's close that down for a moment. Let's first open up our second window spec that we saw, where we set them via the properties. So here are the fonts that are set with that. And if we go back and open up that name font selector, I can see the addition of subtitle. Okay, it gets a source code Pro 20, title, MS Sans Serif 24, and my large, which is a Roboto 16. So let's see how we got those set, and notice what these look like in a running test application here. This is a test, so we can get a good feel for how they might look and help us choose and experiment with finding a font that suits our needs for the application. So how did we set those fonts? Well, there's two hooks I want to show you for setting application fonts: load name fonts and define name fonts. Let's go back to our test example application, go to name font support, and we'll look at load name fonts. Here I can get now, in an application in Visualworks, you're going to use a skin that's set. The default, now I'm on Windows 10 here. I'm going to inspect this. And in fact, I get the Windows native skin, which is typically what I want. So I want to get the current skin, and I'm going to set, in this case, I'm going to set my large to my large style. This is what you need to do. So let's take a look at my large style and how I do that. I'm going to get the preferred pixel size for this installation, and that's going to be different. It can be different depending on what platform you're on, what the resolution of the screen you're on is. And here I'm going to say, I'm going to set the family to something else. Now, you may ask, well, what is the family that I'm using by default? If you look at a method called standard variable with font, I can look in the Windows native skin. It uses this for the family. This is because there's a lot of fonts under this family on Windows. What if I use the default font? Well, it looks for all these family, and it uses font matching to try to find something on that family, and using the rest of the properties here to find something that works on that. So, for example, if you use the default skin on multiple platforms, it's probably going to find something different and proper for that platform. On Windows, we can see this. Now, there's something you can do here. For example, you can see all the fonts that are available on your platform, and I can go down and look at Sego UI. So there's a whole number of fonts that come installed with Windows. Now, I installed a number of additional fonts on this platform that I'm going to try to use here. For example, Roboto. There's also these Google fonts right here, No2 Sans. I'm going to use some of those. So let's close that for a moment. Move this back out of the way. So I'm getting my font description. I'm going to say my large style. I want to try to find a font with pixel size 16 and from one of these families. So for example, if I didn't have Roboto installed on this machine, it would default to this. Failing that, would look for anything that meets the properties we're looking for. So after I ran that, you could see my large, in fact, got set to Roboto 16, which is essentially exactly what I looked for. So now I can use that. I can use my large in the font settings. I can use my large to set the property programmatically as well. What about these others? Well, let's take a look at the other hook, defined named fonts. And this is, so let's go back right to here. So I could have I have a list of installations that I want to put for the fonts that I want to use in this application. And this makes sure that they're set when this application is run. Here's another technique. And what I like about this is it's minimal. It basically, I just pass in an array of some general properties. And this is how title, let's take a look at title, MS Sans Serif size 24. All I basically told it is that I want to use size 24. And for subtitle, I basically said, hey, the pixel size is 20, and I want to use italics. So it actually matched up to Source Code Pro italics size 20, which was the closest match, in fact. What if I wanted to set for title? Let me comment this one out and uncomment this and save that. And let's open this back up. So it does these again. And reopen name font selector. Let's take a look at title now. Now it's set to, I told it the family you want to use is No2 asterisk. So rather than MS Sans Serif, which was set before, well, it has the current setting. Before it was MS Sans Serif, size 24. Now it's No2 Sans Med, medium, size 24 that I've used because I gave it. And you can dig in and find the different properties and specify more and more. Here I'm using the two most typical size and family and italics. And there's other things, bold, and a number of other properties that you can dig in and find. On the skin family settings, let's just back up. So we showed you 3 variations. We showed you how to set the size and family, and the define name font. So we could do all the variations right here. And for something simplistic, define name fonts, and we showed you several variations. The bottom one is the define name fonts with these declarative arrays right here. The skin family settings, we gave you a glimpse of that before. If you're brave and careful, you can experiment with setting these, which can change the fonts for your actual system, which means in the browser right here for these fonts, you can change these. This is a little different down here. Down here, if I go to my settings tool editor, I can change my fonts right here. I can set the families right here, and I can make the relative size changed right here. So that's a different place because the editor uses our second generation of font editing, which was called Text 2. And I want to show you one final hidden gem that I'm imagining you probably don't know about. And that is one of the things I challenged the engineers some years ago was with most browsers, you can change the size of the font very quickly in the browser by holding down the control and using plus minus or even scrolling the mouse cursor. I can actually do that right here. So what I'm going to hold down the control key and I'm going to scroll my mouse wheel right here. And so here's a quick way. Let's say you're on something with a massive resolution screen and what you're looking at is very small. You can just hold down the control, scroll your mouse wheel down, and instantly change that into a larger size. And that'll actually, if you go back to your settings editor, you'll see that you can see before it was +2, now it's +4 because we changed this dynamically right in the code editor. So there's some basic tips and techniques. Let's recap quickly. We showed you how to set widget fonts through the properties programmatically, where to see the named fonts. You can open up the named font selector and see what's installed. We showed you 2 application hooks, load named fonts and define named fonts, and we showed you and gave you examples of how to use these to define additional named fonts to use in your application and on your system. We showed you several different variations of using these two to create and specify the font that you want to use in your application, and you can experiment with these to find something that works. We showed you where the skin family settings are set, where the editor settings are set, and a quick hidden gem to quickly change the font size in your font editor. I hope that gives you some great ideas and some useful techniques to use fonts in your applications. If you have any questions, suggestions, anything else you want to see, you want to see some of this code, anything, please send that to athomas@syncom.com. That's me, Arden Thomas. Until next time, have a great time with Syncom Smalltalk. Thank you.